Hey guys, welcome to the Student Resources area of AAT. My name's Samuel Burmeister and I'm the Head of Technical Development here. Today I'm going to be taking you through the calculating charge out rate calculator that we have inbuilt for our members and specifically for our student members. So you can access this under the member resources under student resources, and we'll also have this available for our general members as well, as I think calculating your pricing is something that should be revisited at least on a yearly or bi-yearly basis. So let's get started and have a look. If you want to have yours open at the same time, feel free. The main thing you need to know is that the gray areas here are editable, and anything in white you can leave, as that will automatically be calculated as we go through. So before we start this, let's talk a little bit about pricing in general. Depending on where you're located in the country, it could be regional, it could be in the cities, it could be really remote. You might work on site or you might work remotely. These kind of factors can change the amounts that you're able to charge, along with your experience. Obviously, experience in the industry can attract a higher charge out rate, and clients are going to want you to justify why you're charging a higher rate if it's higher than other people with a similar skill level. So keep that in mind. Don't feel like you have to have a really high charge out rate when you're first starting. But what you do need to do is ensure that you're covering all your costs and giving yourself the income that you desire, or at least working towards it. So that at the end of the day, after all of your hard work, you're coming home with something that's paying the bills and a bit more. So let's get started with step number one, which is calculating the overhead recovery hours. So how many hours per working week are required to cover your overheads? So to recap overheads, these are your costs that will be paid regardless of how much work you do. So in bookkeeping, we're very lucky to have low overheads compared to other industries. However, they still need to be paid for, and you need to be aware of these. So let's start off with your professional indemnity insurance. This is compulsory for any BAS agent to have professional indemnity insurance. Also, AAT have a great partnership now with AB Phillips, so you can check out on the website the options there for insurance and other features that we have as well. So let's start with saying maybe $300 for professional indemnity insurance. Any professional memberships, you want to enter in the fees here as well. Professional development and training, this could be extra bookkeeping and accounting, training, business coaching, etc. We've got software partner fees, just chuck that in there. And so this is a common expense of bookkeepers. If you work with one of the major software providers like MYOB, Xero, QuickBooks, you might have fees associated with that. An allowance for your computer hardware or office expenses. So it's okay to say, well, I've got a working laptop and I've got this, I've got that, but you've got to put aside an allowance for replacing things or upgrading things as well. And lastly, here we've got your monthly internet and phone. So join those together and work out what that's going to cost you. You can add others here as well if there are other overheads that you might not have considered in this list. You'll then see it will automatically total for you. You can then enter your charge out rate. So charge out rates. Once again, this fluctuates based on where you're located. Have you just started bookkeeping? Have you been in the industry for a while and you're starting your own business? The average charge out rate for a qualified bookkeeper, based on most reports that I've read, is between 55 and 66, including GST. So $50 to $60 including GST is the national average. Depending on experience, you can go much higher than that. And keep in mind, this is your general charge out rate. So you can charge a higher rate for things like training, troubleshooting, and rescue work. So once you've entered in the charge out rate, let's say 55, we can then see it's 1.14 hours overhead recovery hours per working week required. Great. So let's move on to area number two, which is calculating your productive time. So it's important to factor in whether you'll be working several days a week, full-time, more than full-time, less than full-time, etc. Put that into this calculation so that you can ascertain whether you're going to be able to reach those goals, whether you maybe need to charge a bit more or work a bit more to get what you want, but also be realistic with yourself. If you're not going to be able to work the hours, then maybe you need to have a different goal set. So days to be worked per week. So if you're full-time, you could have your 5 here. If you're part-time, put in the amount of days there. Days per year that you will be taking off for public holidays. Now, this is not compulsory, but realistically, there will be days with public holidays that you might take off. So factor those in here, along with how many days you plan to have of annual leave. So this is time away when you won't be working on the books. Based on these calculations, the formula will calculate how many productive days you'll have in a year. Also add here the amount of hours in a day that you'll be working on your working days. So for example, if you've got to pick up the kids and drop them off, you may only have the middle of the day or late at night when they're in bed to work. So you need to factor that in here. Don't just put a full-time amount of hours, put in a realistic average of how many hours you'd work per day on the business. Allocation of time working on your business. There's a famous saying that you need to work on your business, not just in your business. So this is factoring in that those amount of hours will not always be working on the business, getting the bookwork done, payroll, etc. They'll be working on building the business up itself. Activities like this, for example. Once you've entered all that information in, you'll be left with the total productive hours per year. So this is roughly how many hours per year that you can expect that you plan to work. So lastly, everyone's favorite, the desired or required net profit. So how much income or wages do you need to be taking, or would you like to be taking per year? So for example, if you're part-time, you might have this a lot lower because you're saying, realistically, I'm only working 3 days a week. I need 20 days off, and I'm only going to be working 5 hours on average. I'm expecting about 40,000. Then you can enter in your income tax. So let's put that a lot lower. Let's say, we'll just chuck something in here for the example. Obviously, you can use the income tax calculator. Then any loan repayments or return on investment that need to be considered here. And your overheads are automatically inputted from this section here. So once that's done, you can see the total that needs to be earned times by the total amount of productive hours. You're going to need quite a high charge out rate. So we could say, okay, well, that's not really achievable for me. Maybe what I need to do is increase the amount of days per week I'm working if I want to hit that. So you can see by increasing days or maybe working an extra hour, we can start really significantly reducing this. So it's playing around with that. Maybe I'll just have 15 days off a year and we're starting to get to the ballpark. So play around with this and understand what your costs are. Also, it's really important to have a look up here. For example, when I first started my business, I kept my overheads very low. I only worked with clients remotely or driving to their premises. I kept my costs very low. So a lot of these would have been much lower for me. Therefore, my overheads are lower. I don't need to charge out as much. And you may also have a low desired net profit at the start. However, make sure that this is accurate and in line with what you'd like to be doing so that you can get an accurate charge out that's required to give you that goal. So that's how you use our calculating charge out rate calculator. If you have any other questions, feel free to send them through to our email address.